Hey guys, today I'm here to talk to you about one of my favorite role-playing tips that I've used as a DM. So one of my favorite things when I'm playing a character is playing a charisma character. They're fun, you get to talk to people, be social, and you get to interact with these people and get them to do what you want. You get to kind of, either if you're looking at it from a good light, you get to help them help you, or if you're looking at it from a bad light, you get to manipulate them to do what you want. And these are done through persuasion, intimidation, and deception mostly. One thing I don't love about these charisma characters is that I think persuasion is used way more than deception or intimidation. But all three are super flavorful, super fun, and each have their own circumstance. And the reason I came up with this tip is because I was looking for ways to make deception and intimidation better and more useful. Now, the technique I came up with for this is something you might already be doing in your games. You make certain checks like intimidation harder on some characters than persuasion, for example, because they are stronger or because they are already intimidating themselves, so it's hard to intimidate them. But I divided this idea into 6 tags. These are personality traits to give your NPCs, whether they be shopkeepers or kings, that allow players to figure out how to best manipulate these NPCs and also allows them to kind of get a bar and a standard set way to do this. Now, the way I did this is for persuasion, deception, and intimidation, there's 2 tags for each one. One makes it harder to persuade, deceive, or intimidate, and one makes it easier. So for example, on persuasion, you could have somebody that is very secure, meaning they are hard to persuade. They know who they are, they know what they want to do, they're hard to manipulate in that way. But then you have vain on the other hand, where they like to be praised, they like to be buttered up, and they will do what you want if you do that and make them feel like they're doing the good thing. So vain could be, if you're trying to persuade this person, you have advantage. Secure could be, you have disadvantage. For intimidation, you have cowardly and brave. Each one, cowardly have advantage on intimidation checks for this random gnomish shopkeeper that's just scared of everything. But on the other hand, this big brawny knight is very brave and is not weak to intimidation. And then for deception, you could have something like gullible and wary. Gullible is easy to deceive. They'll go along with whatever you're saying. Wary is they're always on the lookout for people trying to deceive them, so they're very aware of when people are trying to deceive them and don't often go into things unless they have facts. And I think these 6 categories are great quick ways to give your NPCs a lot more depth, especially in charismatic situations. Every shopkeeper can have these different ways that you can manipulate them. Every noble that your party interacts with, every quest giver, every villain can have these different things that you can use to build a lot more out of the charismatic situation so that it's just not a persuasion check every single time. For these 6 tags, I also really like the idea of using multiple of them at a time to create a character that has depth in their personality as well as in these charismatic interactions. So for example, if I have a shopkeeper, we'll call him Tom. He's a human, he is middle-aged, he has his family, and he is just living life, he's doing really good. If you were to pass an insight check, you might notice that Tom is secure. He doesn't want really more in life than what he has. The persuasion skill is not going to do a ton on him. He may also be gullible because not a lot of people in his small town try to trick him, so he's really pretty vulnerable to that. But he might also be a little bit of a coward. He might be cowardly because he has his family that he's not willing to lose. He's easily intimidated because he has that and he's not used to that type of tactic. So this character would be resistant against persuasion and vulnerable to both deception and intimidation. And this doesn't have to necessarily be advantage on the roll or disadvantage, it could just be a slight modifier to the DC. But now you have this character who, after just 3 quick tags, you now know a little bit more about who Tom is, how he interacts with you in these charismatic situations, and you can balance your DCs based off of that information in a pretty quick and intuitive way. Another example is you may have Steve. He's the champion of the arena. He is super strong, but he's kind of an airhead. He might be vain. He's very easily persuaded if you butter him up and tell him how he can help you and how he can be the good guy. However, he's probably interacted with a lot of people before who have tried to trick him into doing things, so he may be pretty wary if you're trying to deceive him. But as a champion of arena, he's also really strong, so he's probably not very easily intimidated. Now you have a completely different character that these 3 traits back up, where he's vulnerable to persuasion, but he's resistant to intimidation and deception. And you can mix and match these tags to create a character that can be neutral, resistant, vulnerable to each of these situations. The other thing that this does that I really love love is it makes the insight skill much more than just a lie detector, so that when your players go to insight them, they get a lot more information rather than just probably could persuade him. It gives a lot more definitive, concrete information in that way. This is something where you can actually insight, hey, what specific attributes of these 6 attributes at least is this person? These things help you to know how, as a charisma character, you can manipulate them, but it also, as a wisdom character that might not have the highest charisma, it gives you a way to support your charisma characters outside of combat. I think it pushes your players to react to your characters, not just have a blanket persuasion check. So then when your players make this insight check, they can tell specific factors of what they need to do to manipulate this person. It gives them a game plan and it makes them stretch on their charismatic side to figure out what they need to do. It makes your players treat your NPCs like people rather than just as a skill check that you need to pass this certain level on their persuasion check every single time. Overall, I think the system adds a lot to the characters, and I'm really excited to have this on each of my NPCs. I think it's really cool. I really like it, and I hope you do too. I think in my games, I'm gonna have a lot of fun with this. I think implementing it into my current campaigns and future ones is gonna be really, really cool, and will build a lot of depth into these charismatic interactions. Let us know in the comments what you would do with this, and I'll see you on the next one.